Chapter 8. The morning after Staples' posse ambushed us and went pretty smoothly, especially considering it was the day one of our war against Staples. We ran the business like usual during early recess. The only difference was that Fred sat in the corner of the bathroom where we could keep an eye on him. He was supposed to look at the customers and let us know if any of them were on Staples' payroll, but mostly he just played his Nintendo DS. Thankfully, most of the morning customers had easy problems, like wanting to get them into McDonald's for lunch or other stuff like that. There was one customer, though, whose problem concerned me a little bit. It was this fourth grader kid named Matt Murphy. He was known for picking his nose and eating his burgers in class. He'd try to hide the act by leaning over and huddling down near his desk, but that didn't really hide anything from the kids sitting in front of him. He was pretty well known as an eater, and he was generally considered to be pretty gross by all the girls. I always thought he seemed like a good kid, though, despite his bad habit. "What's your problem, Matt?" I asked as he sat down. "I'm well, I've been told that you could help me with anything at all, right?" "Of course, as long as it doesn't involve like killing a raccoon and then barbecuing it in the alley behind your house or something like that," I said. He smiled, but it was humorless. "I made some bets and I lost, and I don't have the money to pay them, and now I'm going to be collected, Mac." "You need a loan then?" I asked. "Well, maybe, I don't know," he said as he leaned over to play with his shoelaces. "What do you mean you don't know? How much do you owe?" Like $150? He said. This was the part where, if I'd been drinking something, I'd have sprayed it all over the desk, but I wasn't, so instead I just gawked at him. I know, he said. "It's just that Jackie boy in my book, he kept saying double or nothing, Matt. It's the only way. Come on, Matt. Don't be stupid. You'll never pay it back. You have no choice, really. Double or nothing, Matt." And on like that. I just never realized how high it had gotten. "I see," I said as I regained my composure. He was screwed. Flat out, I had that kind of money, but I'd probably have to dip into the emergency fund, which I wasn't about to do for this kid. But I did have another solution in mind, and it would help me on two fronts. "Do you know who they're sending after you?" I asked. "The collector, of course," he said. "And he's bad news, Mac. He's already collected my friend Evan. The collector hurt Evan's hand like that," I said. Oops, sorry. Hurt Evan's hand pretty bad and stole his bike and made him tell his parents that he lost it. "How do you convince your parents that you lost a bike?" I shook my head. That settled it. Barnaby Willis would be the first to go. Evan had been on my baseball team the previous summer. He was a good kid and a really good shortstop. Anybody who would do anything like that to Evan deserved to be taken out. If the assault on me yesterday morning and the beating he laid on Joe after school weren't enough, this certainly was. Plus, taking out Willis seemed to be the natural first step to bringing down Staples. Hopefully, kids would be willing to talk once he was out of the picture. "Okay, here's the deal. I'm going to buy you a little time. I'm not saying how I'll do this, but just know that you'll be safe for a little longer. So you'd better start saving up some cash. Come back to me in a week or so and show me what you have, and I'll try to loan you the rest, okay?" "Okay, Mac, thanks," Matt said, looking relieved. He left the office as the bell rang. So that was that. I needed to take out the collector, aka Barnaby Willis, and I knew just where to go for help. At lunchtime, we closed up the office, and then we made the East Wing boys' bathroom the most dangerous place in the school. The playground probably threw a party that day. 9 visitors stood near the sinks. They watched me warily, but also with a hunger that I found pretty unpleasant. We were normally enemies, most of these 9 and I, but not today. I stood in front of 9 of the school's meanest, most dangerous and vile bullies, jerks, punks, and tough kids. Never before had a school witnessed such a large gathering of bullies as it had on this particular Wednesday. Usually, it would have been hard to get these sort of kids to meet with me here, but we managed to convince them by offering $10 each. Even the most vicious of bullies can be tamed with money. It was an expensive meeting, $90 to be exact, so I hoped that it would pay off in the end. Vince, especially, had been annoyed at the cost. I wasn't sure what was with him. He was always a little concerned over our expenditures, but lately he'd been freaking out over every little penny. I swear I wouldn't be surprised to see him out on the streets selling his school lunches to homeless guys for an extra buck. But I guess it probably had something to do with the Cubs being closer to the World Series than ever in our lifetimes. I normally like to stay out of the bullies business unless a customer made it my business. Bullies are part of the social order of the school, and it wasn't my place to mess with that. I may not have liked it, but in the end, I never could have stopped all the bullies all the time anyway. To be honest, our business depended on the bullies a little, like an exterminator depends on rats and bugs. But now I was meddling with the bullies' business because I needed their help. I needed mercenaries. I needed muscle. I looked at the group of kids in front of me. Each of them could beat me senseless in one way or another in less than a second, which was why I also had Brady join us that day for some extra security. There were 7 boys and just 2 girls, each more dangerous than the last. Maybe I should stop here for a moment and tell you a little more about the bullies so you can get an idea of what I was dealing with. 1. Nubby. Nubby kind of sticks out because he's by far the biggest of the bunch. He is a 7th grader and the kind of bully who picks on other kids to avoid being bullied himself. I guess he really buys into that whole best defense is a good offense sort of thing that coaches are always talking about. Nubby is kind of fat and has a lot of freckles, and his left hand has only stubs of fingers due to some unknown accident. That's why people call him Nubby, because of his stubby fingers. Rumor is he lost his fingers in a horrible petting zoo mishap, but nobody seems to know for sure if that is actually true. Nubby is definitely an easy target for teasing, but he happens to be bigger than the other kids. So instead of being nice and getting picked on, he's mean and quick to club kids over the head with his fingerless mallet of a hand anytime they even look at him funny. Nubby really isn't too bad a guy, though. Whenever kids come to me for help because Nubby is bullying them, he usually is pretty easy to get Nubby to lay off. A bag of chips, some candy, that sort of thing. Little Paul. Little Paul, or LP, as some kids like to call him, is actually pretty little. I know it's lame because the huge guy is always nicknamed Tiny and the little guy is always nicknamed Jumbo. But this is real life and not one of those stupid movies. In real life, kids usually just call it how it is. Not that little Paul can really help being little. He is only a 2nd grader after all. But that doesn't mean the kid still doesn't have a real mean streak. He's confident and talks a big game, and he never backs down from a fight no matter how outmatched he is. But the truth is that no 2nd grader can take little Paul by himself. He is the master of the first strike. The kid always strikes first and strikes hard. At least 7 independent eyewitnesses once reported that with a single blow, he dropped a 150-pound 6th grader like a sack of potatoes. The general rule with LP is if you get on his bad side, you better have your head on a swivel because he can come out of nowhere and take you down before you even know he's there. Number 3, Snapper. Snapper looks pretty harmless if you're one of those people who consider 3rd grade girls harmless, but everybody at my school knows better. Snapper is one of those girls who usually is used to getting her own way. She's a brat through and through, which isn't in itself all that bad, but it's simply terrifying, considering that her signature move is to bite so hard that it would snap a man clean in half but if her mouth were big enough. And also, that isn't too far off. Sometimes, if you look at her right before she's about to strike, her face is all mouth and nothing else. Lots of little girls are biters. That's not really all that new. But the difference is with Snapper is that she really is an exceptionally talented biter. If she isn't getting her way, she strikes fast and hard. Once her iron jaws are clamped down on whatever appendage you're unlucky enough to have too close, you can pretty much kiss it goodbye until several teachers are able to pry open her jaws, or simply she gets tired of making you beg for mercy. The worst part about Snapper's bite is probably that what makes it especially deadly is that struggling only makes her bite harder. One kid even poked her in the eyes, pulled her hair so hard that we thought she would soon be bald, but all that did was make her bite so hard that it broke the skin and the kid ended up with an infected arm for 3 months. Number 4, the Hut. The Hut got his name because he kind of looks and sounds like Jabba the Hutt from the Star Wars movie. He has thick lips and a slimy slug-like appearance. He also slurs his speech, and when he does walk, it's with this raspy, gurgly voice, and I bet he would choose to ride around on a concrete slab with Princess Leia chained to him if that was possible. He's kind of slobby, gross kid, and normally that would make him right to get bullied himself. But the fact is that the Hut is a jerk, flat out. He's an 8th grader bruiser and often likes to trip kids in the hall for no reason other than to show everyone else how cool he thinks he is. The sad truth is that Jar Jar Binks is more likely to ever end up with a girlfriend than this kid, and that makes me feel a little bad for him, despite the fact that he's usually nothing more than a mean blob of a slime. Number 5, Kevin. Kevin is your typical Tevin is your typical run-of-the-mill, good old 7th grade bully. He is tall, big, and has a lot of freckles and likes to make kids miserable. His standard move is also pretty classic. He's a lunch money guy. He thrives on lunch money the way zombies thrive on brains. It got so bad at one point that the school had to lower its prices on their a la carte items, such as cookies and pizza and Little Debbie snacks, because so few kids could afford to buy that stuff anymore. Oddly enough, That was the one year that our school actually passed the presidential physical fitness standard in gym class. A lot of kids come to me for help with Kevin, and what can I say? But sometimes it seems that there's at least 20 Kevins running around our school feasting on kids' lunch monies. One day, a day that everyone now calls the day the lunch money died, Kevin had 33 confirmed attacks spanning 6 different grade levels. It had been the largest scale lunch money massacre in history. There's no question that Kevin had a hunger for lunch money that goes far beyond basic greed. I was eventually able to get Kevin to lay off the younger kids for the most part, which is better than nothing. Plus, he's gotten so good at taking lunch money that he rarely has to beat anybody up anymore. Kids basically just throw their quarters at his feet as he walks by them in the halls. Number 6, I bully. iBully is a tall fifth grader who weighs about 60 pounds, pure skin and bones. He's pale, and his hair is oily, and there have only been 7 or 8 confirmed sightings of him outside of the fresh air of the school history. But that doesn't mean he can't still inflict a serious amount of damage. iBully is a computer bully. He's a master when it comes to hacking kids' emails and Facebook accounts and wreaking havoc on their personal lives. He logs on and sends nasty emails to your best friends. He writes inappropriate messages on teachers' blogs and Facebook walls and Twitter accounts. He once even sent a horrible message to the President of the United States from one kid's email account, and these dudes in black suits showed up in a dark SUV with tinted windows and escorted the kid out of the school. The kid came back 3 days later and hasn't spoken a word since, not one. iBully is part of the reason that I never made a Facebook or Twitter account for myself. It's just too dangerous with him constantly lurking in the neo-glowing depths of the computer lab. Well, that, and I also think Facebook and Twitter is pretty lame. I always prefer, talking to people face to face in real life instead of stalking them like a creeper online. Great White, number 7. Great White is a shark, just like his name might think you think. But really people call him Great White because he's like has super pale skin, white hair, and freaky bluish eyes. He is tall and lanky seventh grader, and he's British too. Normally, most kids would probably laugh at the weird way he sometimes talks, like phrases. He uses phrases like "give it a go" and calling TV Italian, saying maths instead of math. But laughing at his weird British accent would pretty much be the last mistake any kid made. According to Ears, Great White moved to America because he was kicked out of darn near all of the schools in England. I'm not sure if that's true, but it definitely seems possible. I don't know how things work in Britain, but Great White is a real scrapper. He's probably the best fighter in our school. Some kids say they've seen him take out 4 8th graders at one time. He also isn't easy to buy off. When kids need help with Great White, one of the only ways to stop him is to send this bully named Kitten after him. I'll get to Kitten in a bit. Number 8, prep school. Prep school isn't your ordinary bully. In fact, I don't even think she's ever punched, hit, slapped, or physically harmed another person in her life. Her bullying is more of the mental variety. She has an ear for gossip and a knack for filling in the pieces that she doesn't hear for herself, and she isn't afraid to talk either. Some nerdy kid in the gym class did one study once, and he calculated that something like 93.9% of all rumors started within the past 2 years originated with prep school. His study was pretty scientific too. He even had charts and graphs and stuff called probability differentials and mean ranges that made this one kid get a nosebleed during his presentation because it was all so technical. Prep school seemingly picks on any kid she wants, but only a sixth grader like me. She's only a sixth grader like me, but that still doesn't stop her from targeting anybody and everybody. Prep school turned the most popular eighth grader in the whole school into a weirdo loner who now wears a painted burlap sack to school. By starting one simple rumor that the girl's dad is the birthday clown for hire, we later found out this is true, but still, prep school got her name because she's always going on and on about how she's going to go to this private girls' preparatory school in Connecticut instead of a public high school up the street, and that she was going to get so much smarter than all of us and go to Yale University and become some big shot corporate suit with 3 pink sports cars and a dog named Snuggles. A lot of girls are pretty jealous of her, and I guess that's probably why everybody believes what she says about the other kids all the time. Number 9, Kitten. Kitten is by far the king of the bullies at our school. Actually, he's the king of everybody. No one messes with Kitten, not even me. But he doesn't cause a lot of problems either. I have to hire Kitten a lot to keep total control over the other bullies. If one of them ever gets too tough or mean, I just send out Kitten. I actually wanted Kitten to be my permanent strongman, but he wasn't really into being constantly ordered around in public, and who was I to argue? In the end, I'm glad Joe ended up getting the job, but sometimes I wonder what could have been. Either way, the point is that Kitten and I are usually on the same side, thankfully. Kitten got his nickname because he looks like a kitten. Not really, like with the fur and stuff, but metaphorically or whatever. He has a really nice look to him with neat, short, and perfectly parted hair, and he always wears sweaters and collared shirts, and he has big, kind eyes. Plus, he's really little and meek, one of the smallest sixth graders in the school. His voice is really high and soft, like he might start crying at any moment. He looks and acts like the biggest mama's boy in the whole state. How can he be top bully? Kitten is a psychopath, pure and simple. He looks like an angel, but if you get on his bad side, he goes nuts. He uses weapons and teeth and fingernails. One time in math class, he did something with a compass that would get most people arrested. Another time, he wrote all over some guy's brand new white base basketball shoes with a black magic marker. He's crazy and everybody knows it, so they leave him alone and listen to what he says. The thing about Kitten, and part of the reason I like him so much, is that he only bullies if someone else starts it. He never picks on innocent kids for no reason. He isn't a mean guy, just insane. All of the bullies grouped around me in the East Wing bathroom were pretty dangerous. I had a good mix, and presently, they all looked a little cranky. They wanted to know why I dragged them from their lunches to be here. Apparently, $10 only got me so far. I decided I better get talking. I bet you're all wondering why you're here, I said. A few of them nodded, and Great White scoffed. You're all here because I need your help, I continued. It seems that someone has invaded my territory, our territory. His name is Staples. I paused for reaction. The younger ones gasped. I think a few of the older bullies didn't believe me. They thought, like I had once, that Staples didn't exist. But a couple of bullies looked calm or almost embarrassed. It was possible that they owed Staples money already. It's true, I continued. I didn't believe it myself, but he is here, and I need your help to get him out of our school. Why? Why should we help you? Great White said. His British accent made him sound tough and cool. First, he's cheating you guys. He's fixing all the local sports. Some of you may have debts already, and he's probably going to end up having to pay them with a broken arm and maybe your iPod or bike. If you help me, your debt will be gone. Second, if Staples keeps recruiting kids here and takes over the school, there aren't going to be any bullies anymore, at least not independent ones like you guys. The only bullies will be his cronies and bookies and the collector. Would you like that, to lose control? I asked. Third, I will pay you. How much money are we talking about? Great White asked above the murmur of the other bullies. $20 for each task completed, I said. I saw Vince flinch and clench his fists. I knew he would hate that. It would set us back at least another day, a few days of savings for the upcoming Cubs game, which is possibly just a few weeks away. And paying these bullies that much would basically drain our entire savings and force us to dip into the emergency fund. But the future of our whole operation was on the line. Why didn't we see that? Hush came over the bullies. That was pretty good money, considering they bullied for simple lunch money as it was now. What sort of tasks? Kevin asked. Fun ones, I said and smiled. The kind that will allow you to be yourselves. Great White let a snarky grin spread over his gaunt face. I saw some of the other bullies perk up too, except for Kitten. His face looked blank, which wasn't surprising. Kitten always looked composed and rarely talked. Let's get one thing straight now, Great White said. I'm doing this for the money, not helping you blokes. I just soon hover my baby sister's spilled shreddy. I just as soon hoover my baby sister's spilled shreddies every morning or skip holidays this year. I tried not to laugh, but saw some of the other bullies bite their cheeks, doing the same thing. It's always hard not to laugh at the way Great White talked. Apparently, British people called vacuuming hoovering, cereal, shreddies, and vacations holidays. England must be one weird place. That's just fine, I said. Tell yourself whatever you need to. Just remember that if we don't take down Staples now, then you run the risk of going from bullies to bullied. I think some kid is just going to come in here and start pushing us around because of some stupid gambling stuff. Whatever, the Hut slurred. He wasn't the only one who seemed unconvinced. Look, you can believe me or not. If you want the truth, I don't really care either way what you think. Let's just say that you're right, and Staples never will be a threat to you guys. If that's true, then what have you got to lose by helping me? Nothing. All you have to do is a few odd jobs, and you'll be much richer for it. I'm basically making charity cases out of all of you. Why the heck would any of you turn me down? Are you scared or what? You calling me a chicken? Little Paul asked, his fists all balled up, and then he took a step forward. I took a small step back, wary of his first strike capabilities. No, of course not, I said. Not if you're willing to help me out. But if you are too chicken to help, believe me, I totally understand. I mean, who could blame you, right? Several bullies shuffled their feet, and I saw most of them glancing around at one another to see who might be the first to show fear, which is the ultimate sign of weakness for a bully. One flash of vulnerability, and everybody watching and their status at the school as a school bully would come crashing down in the blink of an eye. After nobody spoke for a few seconds, I finally said, "Good. It's nice to see that none of you are too scared or stupid to turn down such a lucrative offer. First of all, well, what's our first task or whatever?" Nubby asked. "The first task is the elimination of Barnaby Willis, otherwise known as the Collector. I want him taken out immediately." "Just like go beat him up or what?" Kevin asked. "It's more than that. I wanted to be completely convinced that it is in his best interest to stop collecting kids permanently. I'm ordering a hit on him. In movies, that usually means killing the guy or dumping him into the river or something. Obviously, I don't want that. I just want him to stop collecting debts. Understand?" I said. The bullies looked at me with blank stares. I sighed. "Look, I want you to collect him. Take his stuff. Do whatever you have to do. Just make him know what it feels like to be collected. Make Barnaby Willis wish he'd never come to school today." Again, I just got more blank stares in response. I guess that's why these kids are bullies and not honor students. "Okay, look, meet up with me at the start of late recess, and I'll tell you exactly what to do, all right?" "What about me?" Prep school asked, her arms crossed and her hip jutting out like she'd better places to be. "What am I supposed to do? I'm not getting involved in any fighting, okay? I can't risk losing my acceptance to Hoover Academy. Plus, I just got a Manny, if you couldn't tell." I hid a smirk. "No, you can't. You can start spreading rumors about the Collector that causes kids to laugh at him instead of fear him. Hey, I don't deal in rumors, okay? What do you take me for? I'm not like some little gossip girl. I don't have time for that kid stuff." I looked her right in the eye until she looked away. "Well, I guess there's no reason for you to be here then, is there? I guess that saves me some money. You can go now." She didn't move. "Wait, you said $20 for each task if I go along with this stupid thing, right?" I nodded. "Fine." She sighed as she shifted her weight so that her other hip was now pointing at me like some sort of huge accusatory finger. "Same with you, I bully. Your job is to try and destroy Barnaby's street cred by breaking into whatever personal online account you can find for him." I bully wheezed and nodded while his finger flicked repeatedly across the touchscreen phone he'd been fiddling with the whole time. Knowing him, he'd probably been hacking into Canada's Homeland Security database just while we'd been talking. I smiled. "All right, I'll see the rest of you at the start of late recess, except for Kitten. I need you to stick around for a minute. I've got a special assignment for you." The rest of the bullies started to leave. As Brady ushered them out of the bathroom, I looked at the eager faces while trying to ignore the sudden feeling that I was letting loose a bunch of wolves into a flock of lambs. Soon only Kitten was left. He looked at me, waiting for a special assignment. Now that a plan to take out the Collector was in place, it was time to move to phase 2. "Kitten," I said, leading him toward the fourth stall, "how would you feel about convincing somebody to come in for a meeting with me?" His face remained expressionless, except possibly for the barest hint of a smirk. "I thought so," I said, and then proceeded to tell him exactly what I had in mind.